Angelina, you've been in the field now for UNHCR for 10 years. What motivated you to do this?
I had an experience. I was traveling in a film, and I went into Cambodia, and I met many returned refugees, and I learned a lot about the situation there, and I then wanted to know what else was happening in the world, and I wanted to understand what it was to be a refugee, and when I got the information and the numbers and saw the mass exoduses around the world and the millions of displaced people, I just wanted to learn more, and then I did, and I met them, and I was very inspired to work with them.
And do you now understand what it is to be a refugee?
Yes, in that I think, well, in fact, they are the most vulnerable people in the world. But they are often seen as a burden when, in fact, they should be seen as the future of their countries and a people who are extraordinary survivors and are very resilient and are wonderful families. And so when I meet them, I feel a great sense of hope for the future, and I think they should be invested in and supported, and then when they return home, be given the support to be able to help rebuild their countries.
And all the places you've been, some dangerous, some desolate, some remote, what has struck you most? What particular incident sticks in the mind?
Oh, that's like asking you which one, right? That's hard.
There's so many.
There's so many. I think it's, there's always your first. The first time you travel, the first time I was in Sierra Leone when the war was still going on, and it was such a brutal war with so many people getting their arms and legs cut off, and I remember seeing a little 3-year-old who had had her arms and legs cut off, and I just couldn't understand how that made sense in any reality. I couldn't quite place that people could be so horrible to each other, and then I went, the next place I went to was the first time I saw the masses of humanity. When I went to Tanzania, it was the first time I saw hundreds of thousands of people in one place, living in borrowed land on a plot with a number, with a card with a number, and dependent on aid and never knowing when they were going home, and they'd be there on average 15 years. And I was overwhelmed by this new understanding of what was really happening in the world.
Why do you think that this cause is so important rather than all the others that must be clamoring for your attention?
Well, I think the interesting thing that, one, I think refugees are often very misunderstood, and so it was important to me that people really know who they are as people, and because there's so much to be inspired by and to support and to love about them, and not just see it as a burden. But I also think people often forget that a refugee is all these other things. If somebody is concerned about people with cancer, if somebody's concerned about people who if there's abuse, women's abuse, children's needs, everything is in a refugee camp. These people are facing all of the ailments of human society, and on top of it, they've lost their basic human rights and their home. So every part of humanity is represented in a refugee camp. So in fact, working with them, I work on all issues. And yet this other bigger picture of people who, on top of it all, have no protection.
You know better than most this is a growing problem. More millions of refugees. Is the world doing enough about it? What more should we be doing?
I think you should always do more. There's always more to be done, but I think we need to focus more on prevention. I think there's a lot that happens where we tend to be chasing up the numbers. We tend to be trying to get the money together to deal with the famine, one that many people knew was coming, one that in Somalia now, and it's not just because of an act of God. There are many, many other things at play that we've been aware of for years and we've seen coming, and there are things we can work on to prevent these situations from getting this bad. There are ways we can help countries with good governance. There are ways we can help people to trade fairly and help themselves and be able to be productive citizens of productive countries. And if we focus on that enough, we would prevent some of these situations. And I think that that's what we should focus on more, and not just be racing the clock.
Angelina Jolie, we thank you for all that you do, and you will go on doing it, won't you?
I would love to, yes. And you, I'm sure. We'll meet in the field one day.
Love to.
That
Real
would be
pleasure.
great.